As you can see, our chairman, he let us know last meeting that he will be out of town. He's in Europe, I believe, and so I am standing in. If everyone will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go to roll call, we'll introduce our newest member, Bill Thompson. He's been a resident for 20 years and been on several different committees for the city, and we're lucky to have him. Bill, if there's anything you would like to add?
No, you hit it out of the park. Thank you.
All right.
I'm just happy to be here, and we'll do whatever I can to help with them. So,
thank you for serving.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it. All right, roll call, please.
Member Thompson?
Here.
Member Kurzman?
Here.
Member Looney? Here. Vice Chair Stevens?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Great. All right. We'll move on down to approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to add or discuss about the agenda?
I'd like to add a couple of items.
Okay.
And the reason they're being added and not earlier is just because they are timely. One is there's been recent Senate activity, and I just heard things at the planning board meeting this week, and so my request, if possible, not to put anybody on the spot, would be just to discuss any of the new Senate bills or laws that are being discussed and how they might affect the beach or the beach ordinance or things of that nature, because it is things that are happening right now, and it can be relevant to us. The other item is beach closures and the information about that. We had a meeting a couple of times ago about putting the status of our beach health on the website or public sources of the beach health, and there were some beaches closed, Indian Rocks to Clearwater, and just a discussion about where the information about our beaches, and then when the information about when beaches are good and healthy again are posted. So something about the beach health process and posting would be the other item.
Okay. Any comments on Member Kurzman? My only question would be on Senate bills, though interesting, they're not, I don't think they're law yet, and we can have a discussion, but we don't know what we don't know, and I'm not up to speed with them, and if we were going to have discussion, I'd like to, if we could get a briefing on them, and I don't know.
I could do that.
That's what we're talking about.
Today or at a future date?
Either way.
Just the status is what I'm asking for.
Could you give us a quick status of
Yeah.
at least what's being discussed? And I hope we don't, get caught in kind of a loop of what could be, but just, hey, what are they discussing? Would that be okay?
That would be ideal.
Okay. And then beach closure. So we'll add that as
G and H.
G for Senate bills, H for beach closure. Anybody else? I would, if everyone's okay, just a quick update on the beach ordinance. I know that there is a community meeting, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, that there's another community meeting to discuss that, but just a quick update on that. Okay? Everyone good with the agenda? All right, we'll move next to audience comments. I just saw one card, so I'm assuming we have at least one comment.
Kathleen Etchegoyen?
Please come up to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, and
Thank you.
please, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Kathleen Etchegoyen, 106 Fifth Avenue, Passive Grove Beach. So I'm all the way down in the village at the south end. And my question or comment is, whether it's this meeting or a next meeting, is the status of the seawall. Right now, it's the orange cloth that's being wind blown down, and the overpasses. Our overpasses are at 4th Avenue and 6th Avenue. Right now, they're simply paths dug into the sand with, I don't know what you call them, the sticks. So what is the plan? What is the milestones? Are there actions that we can follow, just so I have a basic understanding of what to expect?
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
thank you. Ayako, can we put on for next meeting, I know that there was an RFP for walkovers, and I believe 4th and 6th, or down there, there was an RFP that went out, and I thought it was at the commission meeting to get approved, but I've been out of town. But if, what's the status of the RFP of the walkovers, where they're going, as well as the status of rebuilding the wall that got knocked down from the storm?
Right. Okay.
Any other comments?
I have one for lighting, but that's down the agenda a bit.
Okay. All right.
Was-
A comment on a specific item, we will,
Okay.
We'll
I thought there
call.
was something about, okay.
okay? We'll move to action items. Approval of both the February 26th regular meeting as well as the March 20th workshop meeting. And I believe we can do these both at the same time. Is there any comments about the February 26th minute meetings? Any comments on the March 20th, 2025 workshop meeting minutes?
I didn't recall seeing those in the packet. Maybe I somehow missed them.
I received both. Did you get those?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Are you okay to proceed?
I'm okay to proceed, I just won't vote on that.
Well, you have to vote, so maybe we could print them out. Can someone print them out?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I can give,
They're on the iPad.
Yeah, I could just read it.
They're on the iPad in front of you.
okay.
We can come back to the item if you want and give him time to read it.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Well, I take it back. No, never mind. I do need to read it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Why don't we push the workshop, the one you missed, to the next meeting? Is that okay? And may I have a motion for the February 26th regular meeting minutes approval?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call.
Member Kurzman?
Yes.
Member Looney?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Abstain.
Vice Chair Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. And then for the next meeting, just add the, for this meeting and that next. Okay. The next is election of committee officers for this, the next cycle. So we should have a quick discussion here. Chair Rothenberger is not here. He did communicate through the clerk that he is not interested or not able to continue as chair for this next session, and he would be okay for us to proceed without him. That said, we can choose to wait and do it, but he encouraged us to decide amongst the four of us, and if we can't come to a conclusion, we can wait. Does everyone feel comfortable in proceeding without him?
Sure.
Okay. I signed up for vice chair. I'm willing to step up as chair, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Now, the hard part, we need someone to raise their hand and become vice chair. Don't all come at once,
Well, as the new guy, I'm going to gracefully bow out.
okay?
I'd like to get a few more meetings under my belt before I lead one potentially.
I guess that leaves me as vice chair.
You're the last to step
Yeah,
back.
that's fine.
That was pretty easy.
That's fine. I'm fine with being vice chair. I try to, that's fine.
Okay.
I volunteer as vice chair.
Okay, So can we do these together, or they have to be separate?
You could do them together if you'd like.
We can.
Great. So I request a motion to appoint myself and John as chair and vice chair respectively.
So moved.
Someone needs to move it.
I'd make a motion to appoint John as
John Stevens. There's two Johns here.
We're going to have John and John as president and vice president.
Yeah.
To approve John Stevens as president, chair, excuse me, and John Kurzman as vice chair.
I have a
I
second.
second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Member Looney?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Member Kurzman?
Yes.
Chair Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries.
In fact, I'm looking at the minutes here on the action items. It actually says the current vice chair is John Kurzman, and that was incorrect, but
Oh,
it was preordained.
Yes. And the stars.
There you go.
all right. We will move on to item 4A, and this is an update regarding the emergency beach renourishment dune work. And I believe we have
Zach Westfall?
Zach Westfall from Pinellas County to update us on some work at Upland Beach.
Good morning.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Hi, Zach. How you doing?
Awesome. Fantastic. Good morning. Thanks for letting me come speak with you all today. I appreciate it. My name is Zach Westfall with Pinellas County Coastal Management. You may or may not have talked or heard my name before, but I do work with John Bishop at the county doing the coastal management projects like Pass the Grill, Renourishment Project, and the Dune Project we're going to talk about now. So if you haven't met me, it's a pleasure. I look forward to getting this dune planted for you. So I'm going to give you a little status update as IACO requested. I give you a little talk too. So I was happy to oblige. So good morning, everybody. So what we have now is the status is we, as you know, that the dune that got washed away during Helene was already planted, but it's gone now, unfortunately. So we did build the next dune with all of the overwash sand that was in the street. So we did not have a plan to plant again, but we decided to go ahead and plant it now because it's, sand is out there, and then we don't want it blowing all over the place, and we want to stabilize the dune while it's out there as well, because it's a nice, big, beautiful dune. And it's going to be a great habitat for a lot of, birds and bees and stuff like that too. So we want to get it so it's not just a barren dune. So what we were thinking about doing is getting a scope of work. In fact, we're not thinking about it. We have it done. We have a scope of work that that we have already vetted. So we're just trying to make sure we have the time to go out to bid and get that done. We are working with a few other projects around the county involving dunes and beach projects. So we're working with that as well. So please bear with us. A lot of stuff to do for just me and another person. So we're working as fast as we can. And right now we have a great scope of work. It's going to be essentially, I was just out there the other week with a group trying to survey the amount of area we're going to need to plant. So I have that survey done. I'm going to include that with the scope. The scope of work is going to be great. It has a lot of different varieties of dune plants and native Florida species. So instead of just having about 4 plants we had last time, we're going to have upwards of about 10 to 11, depending on whether or not the nursery can carry those plants at that time. But right now, the only issue we have is we do not have a permit to do the planting. As some of you may know, there is required permits by the state to do any sort of beach work, and we are not exempt from that, so we still have to get permits ourselves. We were given the option of getting a CCCL permit or going through a renewal of our joint coastal permit, which is the permit that we use to place sand on the beach. We can also use that to plant dunes and build dunes with that permit as well. So we are going to be operating under that, but it is not officially approved yet, so we're just waiting on that. That shouldn't take too much more time. Once we have that, then I will talk with John and we can see what time we can go out there and start doing the planting project. And we may try to do it with other projects that we have in the area. So we may want to save some money, try to bundle it all as one big one, or if we want to just move forward with just this one, I'll have to talk with my boss, Superman John Bishop, about that. But that's kind of the rundown. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Jack,
I think he can hear us. Can you hear us?
Jack, can you hear me? Yeah, I might have missed it, but can you give us a sense of where on the beach we're talking about? Is it
Yeah,
Upland? Is
so-
it Paso Grill? Is it
It's Pascal.
in between?
It's gonna be
Paso Grill?
It's going to be Paso Grill because that's where we had built we're only planting places where we actually built the dune. So with that overwash sand, so we built the dune from 1st Avenue, I think, to around 16th Avenue is where we were placing sand.
Okay.
So all the overwash sand that was in the street, we put back on the beach, and that's what we intend on planting. What we had placed out there, the county.
Because I know there was a large project in front of Starlight Tower at Upland, I think after Idalia, with some good plantings. And Tampa Bay Watch might have come out, and planted right there at the walkover in front of Paradise Grill. And I think that's all gone now. So is that on your radar as well?
So right now we're only going to be planting where we're building a dune. So if there is places you'd like to plant, we do have a CO giveaway every year, which I'm starting up very soon. That is a CO giveaway that we do across the entire county. The unfortunate part is pretty fortunate, is I've had a lot of applications. And my budget is about $5,000. So if I can give some, but I can't give enough to fill a whole beach. If that's something that would, the city or they would like to go forward and move forward with, then that's something that you guys would have to discuss.
Is there any headway on the progress of getting Army Corps to be willing to do the beach nourishment in the rest of our beach? Are they still holding, a sort of ransom, waiting for one or two stragglers to agree to their conditions to move forward?
That's a good question. Yeah, we are still in talks with them, especially with changes with administration and those sorts of things. But so far, the county, as we're planning right now, we are planning for the beach projects to be a county project, pending, of course, funding and money from the board.
So one thing is interesting, I probably should give you this information, is when I went to the Treasure Island meeting that was held when they were presenting to people about how they were going to do beach nourishment at Treasure Island, and the conditions of, people having to relinquish their rights or what have you. And the Army Corps engineer people were there. And I asked them, back when they were doing the formal reading of the announcement, everybody sort of left the room because there were no objectors. And I got to talk to the Army Corps people, and I said, specifically, what is the language, what is the law that's making you believe you need to require that people to give up their rights for the future rather than the rights you need currently? And was there a law change? Because, why didn't you need this previously? And they said, and they showed me it. And I said, well, I'm reading this, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm reading this, and I don't really see it saying that. And they said, well, actually, we understand what you're saying. We just need a director to tell us that, and no one's in that position right now. So now that there's a new president, we just need a new director, and we're waiting for the new director to tell us. So I'm just saying, let's look for that new director to get right into the Army Corps and say, hey, can you read this section? Because maybe that law really doesn't say what they're saying it means, because it didn't used to mean that. And now all of a sudden, it means, they're literally saying, we don't just want you to give away the rights to the land because we're about to nourish it. We are saying we might need it in the future. And because we might need it in the future, we want you to give up land we're not even needing now. And that's, I think, the area that some people are objecting to. And, okay, yeah, maybe they are. And so if we can get rid of that sticking point, maybe we can get people to agree and get nourishment for the entire beach that's being held up because people are saying, well, they're arguing about something that isn't even happening. it's just a shame to hold up everything on something that's not even really an issue at the time. So, at least that's my interpretation.
So yeah, it's been a 13-year stalemate, unfortunately, with the Corps. So we're hoping for some wiggle room, but it is what it is. They have lawyers. They have to listen to them. They got to talk to them. But the good news is that WRDA 2024 passed. That's the Water Resources Development Act. So that's the ones that can, give the authorization to build these projects. And in that guidance, in that act, they said that the Corps should operate as they previously did and fill these beaches. However, they are still waiting for a guidance document to implement WRDA. So it's not going to, but the time frames are just not there. It's going to take them too long to do this. So we still, the county understands the emergency out there. We are trying to do what we can on our end because we just can't wait. You guys know that. We just can't wait. So we're seeing what we can do.
Now, when you say a 13-year stalemate, are you saying that the Army Corps has not funded beach nourishment in the last 13 years at St. Pete Beach?
But they gave us warning signs about this coming in for as far as real estate goes. Before the 2018 project in Sand Key, they were saying that, because of Hurricane Sandy in 2012, all of these easement questions came up because of that. And they did a full dive back then and realized that projects all over the country were out of compliance. And we just so happened to be one of the first ones that they analyzed and saw, wow, there's real estate issues, according to them, that they can't construct this beach anymore. So that was part of it, but it's been kind of a debate ever since the beginning of the 2018 Sand Key project.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good question.
John, if I could.
Yeah, please.
Zach, one last thing, and I'll shut up. Has the county determined that along St. Pete Beach, from Pasquarel Point all the way to the mouth of Blind Pass, that the only area that needs renourishment as a result of Helene, Milton, is south of 22nd?
That's within our authorized project. If that's kind of what has been historically been needing sand, we do, take surveys out there and we do monitoring out there, but historically that was the project fill area. And north of there, it does get pretty wide in the middle of the island. But yeah, those are our fill templates. That's what's in our permit. That's what we're allowed to fill.
So are you familiar with the renourishment that was done, 2 years ago now, in front of Starlight Tower, just south of the mouth of Blind Pass?
Was that the Dune project?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the county project.
It was a county project, and it was.
Yeah, that was the Dune.
Yeah, and it's probably like
Yes.
half the size it was.
Yeah, that area.
Was that privately funded by the building, or was that?
That was identified by our engineers as a place that needed a dune after Idalia. So that's the dune that was built over there. Unfortunately, because of the space of the area out there, it's really hard to build a dune in that area. We're still in, discussions with our engineer about what is constructible. But, if time comes that we fill that beach, a dune is part of the permit, but we'll have to see where we can actually put it and fill it and make sure it stays put and not eroded immediately after we place it.
Right. Fair enough.
And for that one, isn't there also a drain issue that has to be addressed to if you really want to keep the dune there?
Yes.
And then also, where for funding, are your funding coming from the bed tax? And is there people I don't know if that's part of what you're looking at, but the bed tax issues and if that's going now to stadiums or other things, does that take away from the beach nourishment?
Sure. Okay, yeah. This project, if approved by the board and everything like that, it would be a tourist development tax which is the bed tax. Yes, that's part of it. And then there's also, we do go out for what's called local government funding requests from the state. And they can cost share on our projects with us to try to help local communities protect themselves, just like what we're doing over here. There's also special appropriations, but as we know, the state budget has been back and forth quite a few times now. I think it's mid-May, it's almost over mid-May, and we still don't have a state budget yet. So there could be appropriations in there too. But we won't know until that budget is passed by the state to see if there's any money for to help supplement that.
And to your point, something just occurred to me. If we can find local funding for plant material for dune stabilization and get it to the county, can the county install it?
We've done just, you know.
That's a question above my head. I don't know what to tell you. If you go with your own grant, you guys could find volunteers to plant it for you too.
Okay.
It's it's not a big operation.
And we can do
I'll tell you
that
right now.
work
I order
under the
from
county's
nurseries down
permit?
in South Florida. Huh?
Can we do that work under the county's permit?
So I was
It
involved.
Yeah.
Last year working with IACO through the grant, the CO giveaway grant from the county.
Okay.
And we worked through Dune Savers, Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and a whole bunch. And we had
All
a
right.
whole bunch of volunteers to come out.
Cool.
And unfortunately, I was traveling. I couldn't actually be there, but I helped. IACO IACO did a great job.
So we
leading it.
planted all up at Upham, right in front of the Paradise Grill there?
I saw
Not in
that.
front of Starlight and the
Yeah, I saw
condos.
that, and you did a great job.
And they've managed to actually be
We
quite
can get
resilient.
volunteers, no problem
Okay.
planting. So labor is not an issue. It's
fine.
funding and then finding appropriate plant material. And then we would work with the CCCL, county coordinator and get a field permit where needed to go do that.
Okay.
So kind of first is cash, second is finding, working with Zach and his team to go find plant material because it's in great demand. And then finding labor, you put it out there and people just flock because everyone's so passionate about it.
Okay, cool. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have?
It's
Zach.
not a special operation. It's really simplified. I order from a nursery down south. I did go out to bid for a few places to get some bids for it, and for $5,000 I can buy about 3,000 COs. So, and if you are curious, I believe that Tampa Bay Estuary Program and a few of those other programs around here, they have $5,000 grants that are available to communities and people to reach out for, and that is something that we could look into as a city and do your own city-funded project if you'd like to. And the labor would be free. You'd just be basically paying for the COs and the delivery, and that's about it. Or if you even want to go down there and pick them up, you can do that too. It saves some even more money. So, the world is your oyster. You have the option to do that too.
And they, just talking last year, they actually give you a little template of how to plant them, how far apart and all of that. And
I'm there.
you
I'm
get
all
drills,
yeah,
drills
all
with
over
augers,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just a machine line. It was really
you.
impressive how the community came together last year. And we had a couple commissioners out there getting their hands in the sand, doing it. So it was a lot of fun.
I'll show up. That sounds fun.
Yes, it was.
Did you have any questions?
No.
So Zach, I've actually reached out asking for us about the CO giveaway. Thank you for sharing the information. You also mentioned that you guys were considering some sand for Upham Beach in that email. Is there any update on actually getting some renourishment up there, and where is that at? Because we desperately need it up at Upham.
Oh yeah, we understand. That's why that's why we're not waiting for the court. We need to go out there and go quickly. So we are out to bid right now to basically have all the beaches filled that were impacted besides Paso Grill. Paso Grill held up pretty well during the storm, and I think after the storm it was 95% filled with the template. So that template is completely filled with sand, and plus the addition to dune. Now there's even more. So we are still going through with that. I wish I had more information for you. Right now, it's up in the air, because once we get those bids, then we'll see what we can work with, and then the funding also will need to come down from there too.
Understand.
But it should be, but our permit would expire by March 2026. So between now and then, we're going to try and do what we can to get some sand on the beach.
Since you mentioned Upham, even before the hurricanes, I bottomed out in Blind Pass. So is one of the sources of sand just getting the sand right by Upham, where it seems like a lot of Upham sand ended up, even previously, or do you have to go further for it?
That's a good question. Yeah. So we actually have we have four permanent borrow areas. There's John's Pass, Blind Pass, and Pass-a-Grille, and then Egmont Shoals, which is just north of Egmont Key. And those have historically proven to show that they have beach quality sand. So the idea is that we would use inlet sources because they're so close, and because we would like to clear out the inlets. That would be the preferred way of going, but we, again, have to leave it up to the contractor to see what their plan is going to be. But it's going to be cost effective to get the sand out of there for us and the contractor.
I know it's not beach directly, but since you mentioned it, I just went out to the new sandbar out by Bunce's that's totally separate from Bunce's. And I would hope that they're not going to take away something like that, but maybe just clean out the just general hazards that are out there rather than remove like a whole new fun sandbar, especially as Bunce's got so much smaller now from Helene and Milton. But that's just my personal 2 cents, having seen us lose what was once a fun recreation area, but now we seem to be gaining another little fun recreation area, it looks like. Just throwing it out there.
We don't have, a Bunce's Pass is not an authorized borrow area, so we would not be taking anywhere from Bunce's Pass. That beach is actually one of the least of my concerns, because it does go through cycles. Yeah. And that sandbar has come up actually about 2 other times in history. So that beach nourishes itself, which means my job is done there, So that's the least of my concerns over there. The other beaches I have to worry about, but that Fort DeSoto is, thankfully, it's self-nourishing at this point. So I'll keep it that way.
Right. I just meant you're not going to take from it, but okay. Yeah, thank you.
So Zach, I just want to thank you, with your work last year and this year, and the CEO's giveaway, and all your, you and Dr. John Bishop's work to support our beach. We really appreciate it. And once you're open for applications for this year's CEO giveaway, please let us know. I know the city is interested, and there's also other private, non-city entities that are also interested. As we look at, the dunes are the seawalls of the east, that when the next storm comes, it's going to help us. So we're all, very passionate about getting some things done. So once that's opened up, please let us know, because as you said, there's a lot of interest in the county. There's a lot of interest on our island, and please pass on our thanks to John Bishop for us.
Of course, yeah. Thank you very much for letting me speak today. And I want to leave you with this note. It is turtle nesting season. Yes. So with the dunes gone in a lot of places, with a lot of the properties, a lot of the first floor properties are going to be exposed. So if y'all can really do me a favor too, and try to get the word out that there's lights that are horrible out in a lot of our municipalities, not just St. Pete, but a lot of places, just because of the dune being gone, the vegetation being gone. So please keep that at the forefront of your mind, when you're going out and looking at these properties, because we are going to get hatchlings ending up in a lot of different places. I've already heard from Clearwater Marine Aquarium and Sea Turtle Trackers that the lights out there already. I have the lighting survey. It's going to be a doozy. So it is turtle nesting season. Please keep your lights off. Keep them low. Keep them, keep the wavelength long. So amber lighting, keep it shielded. And please just help us protect those turtles out there, because we do have quite a few nests at Pass-a-Grille now. So Thank you very much. I appreciate all your help, and thanks you for letting me speak today.
Thank
And
you.
Zach, just so you know, about 3 or 4 more items down our agenda, we're going to be talking about the lighting ordinance. So we're also very passionate about that. So we agree.
I love that. This is why you guys walk. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on, is there any public comments for this topic?
No.
Okay. If everyone's okay, we'll move on to the next. An update regarding the new staff liaison to the Beach Stewardship Committee.
Yes, so I spoke with the Director of Public Services, because beaches now falls under Public Services. And they have selected a deputy director for themselves. Brian Peckins will begin on June 16th, and he will be the liaison now for the Beach Stewardship Committee going forward.
What was his name again?
Brian Peckins.
And Public Services is under,
It's formerly Public Works, yeah. And Camden Mills is the director.
June 16th. Okay, great.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's no public comment on this topic.
No.
Next is budget requests. I actually asked this to be on. 'Tis the season for budget, and if you want anything for next year to happen, you need to get it into the budget conversation. And my purpose of bringing this up, and just to make sure that it's being heard, is there any budget requests or pending for any areas of the St. Pete Beach government organization that needs to be included in those into those budget workshops? And is there anything we can do as a committee to help move that conversation forward with the commission?
Well, we do have Pete Dorr here from Code Enforcement, so we have made requests, I believe, to the budget
Okay,
to increase
come on up.
our efforts.
How are you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Good to see you.
Committee members, my name is Pete Dewar. I'm the Code Enforcement Manager. It would be helpful, we've already had that discussion for resources on the beach. It would be helpful if you can put in a good word for us, but we're already in that process of discussing additional resources, like vehicles, for example. So if we can get funding for that, and maybe with your assistance, it would help get the commission to understand that those resources are needed if we are to do a good job of enforcing the codes that you're expecting us to enforce on the beach.
Do you need more people?
It's always a good thing to have additional staff, maybe 1 or 2 more. But if not, I would prefer the ability to be able to access the beach in a vehicle as opposed to having Ayako walk out on the beach to do enforcement.
You talking like Polaris four-wheeler or?
Yes, that's a start.
E-bike?
Yes, we're we're already in that preliminary
Okay.
discussion with the city manager and the commission. Thank you.
What about, do you need night staffing? Like, just so you could maybe see lights and things like that?
We have night staffing. We have 3 code enforcement officers, including Ayako, who is out on the beach, and Ayako can tell you she was on the beach several nights ago.
One day.
And so, yes, we have
That's not a
started that
budgeted.
process.
And just to be clear, when you're talking code enforcement, you're talking about lighting, you're not talking about electrical permits above seawater grade and all that nonsense. This is all code, ordinance code stuff
Yes.
for the beach.
Yes.
Is the city have other Polarises or vehicles they could just let your organization use?
We are utilizing public services vehicles, and I think you were out on one of those vehicles Monday. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, we are.
All-wheel
utilizing-
drive that, you know,
Yeah.
is proper for
Yeah,
the...
gators that belong to the Parks Department
Right.
is what we've been borrowing.
So you're essentially expanding, excuse me, your operations from, drive-bys on the street as a response of the neighbor saying his grass is too tall, and now you're going to include the beach areas for whatever.
No, sir, we've been doing inspections on the beach since 2016 when I got here.
Oh, you have?
Yes,
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for doing that.
you're welcome.
Is there a specific list that you gave? Is it appropriate for us to talk amongst ourselves? Should we ask about that list, and then, I'm willing to go talk to the city manager?
I mean, I'd like to know
But
what
I
it
don't
is
know.
you're
I
looking
could-
for proactively and responding to reactively.
Specifically, 2 new vehicles.
No, as far as doing the review, the ordinancing on the beach property as opposed to the non-beach property. It's got to be a different ballgame altogether.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Lighting,
It's this big list here, I think, is all the,
is that it?
these are code enforcement warnings.
Most
that's
of
the
these are
sheriff's
actually
report.
police. This is activity.
Yes, that's
Okay, so in your responsibility on the beach for code enforcement, can you give us like the top 3 or whatever, David Letterman's top 10 list of,
lighting would be the first.
what's that?
Lighting.
Lighting?
Yes. And so, as you're aware, and as the gentleman just mentioned, we're in turtle season,
Right.
and part of our responsibility.
And I'm trying to put you on the spot.
Oh, that's fine. That's
Okay,
fine.
thank you.
Part of our responsibility is to ensure that lighting, and so what we use is
Red lights.
this lens.
Cool.
Yeah, and it is pretty cool. If you would like, and I can pass this around, you can look at the light, for example, these overhead lights, and then take a look at the exit light, and you will see the difference. So as minimal as this might look, it is effective, and so we've been using this for years to ensure that lighting that we can see as we're inspecting, doing those inspections from the beach, that lighting, the owner of a property that has lighting in violation of our code, they're notified.
Okay.
For the most part, everyone is environmentally friendly. They want to do the right thing.
Right.
As soon as you notify them, they do the right thing and change the lights or reevaluate that situation so that the light is not observed from the beach. But this is effective, an effective tool. As it relates to, I guess, the next topic on the agenda I see was going to be the adoption or a discussion on the adoption of a new lighting ordinance. My input is the ordinance.
Can we, I want to hear that, but let us get to that on the agenda.
You got it, okay.
If
I'm
you-
sorry.
If you don't
Yeah,
mind, I just
I-
want to.
so that's
I want to
fine.
stay, I don't want to jump
Yes,
around.
so let me pass this
I just
along.
wanted a short list of what they're doing for code ordinance compliance.
So during the day, the vehicle, for instance, be used just to get around to do things on the beach.
The second item would be, as you're mentioning, driving around to observe if there is, I guess there's supposedly a prevalence, which I have not found, of people urinating, defecating, or fornicating on the beach. And I'm not saying it is not a reality. I'm just saying it's not a reality as far as I have witnessed. The idea is, even if we are to witness that, let's say staff is out on the beach during the day, and we do witness something like that, we have the Sheriff's Department that will back us up. We've called the Sheriff's Department on visitors drinking alcohol, for example, which is another part of what our responsibilities include. So if we are to observe those things, we have the assistance of the Sheriff's Department. The third thing would be the controlled area for alcohol. If violations occur at these resorts, staff is able to get in touch with management to say, hey, you have been provided a certain area where alcohol can be served. If you're outside of that area, you could in fact lose your ability to serve alcohol on the beach if there are violations that keep occurring. So those would be our 3 things that staff is responsible for on the beach year-round.
And I know, because I'm quite involved with it, also dune vegetation, damaging dunes, people going out, putting putt-putt in dunes, all of those things are also
Okay.
included. people going, off the path, and keeping people on path. So the good thing is that's not in your top three. That means it's not happening often.
Right.
But I also know that you guys are involved in that.
Yes.
So, just for you guys out there, I hold this up and try to look at the exit sign. If you all turn around and look at the exit sign, it's like that red, orange. It's not there.
Exactly.
There it's there, there it's not.
That's right.
I look up here at the white.
And you can see a
I see
blue,
blue, I see what,
that's a violation.
this is really cool.
Exactly.
Now you,
Yes.
now you look like a turtle. Now, I don't think that this is like a legally admissible thing, but it's a good tool to use. So you can tell the people, hey, you got a problem. If they're going to fight you, then you can go to the spectrometer or whatever. But this should be enough to let them realize, hey, this is something suspicious.
Yeah.
Let's get this
And
addressed.
this is printed out with city logo, brought to you by da-da-da.
Yes.
We should have like hundreds of these.
We do have.
At city events.
in the
to
lobby.
Pass out for free.
We do have.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
100 of them.
Great.
Yes, it's nice.
And I'll tell you, and then we'll move forward as a personal story. I moved here in 2020. In the first year in our building, I'm in a small condo building, and that first turtle season, we had sea turtles show up in our swimming pool, and we went right on the beach. And doing some research, we found out quickly that
You had
without code enforcement involved, that we weren't compliant
That's right.
in sea turtle lighting.
You had lights that were,
They were white,
yes.
yes. And apparently before I was an owner, they used to be yellow, and then they burnt out, and the maintenance guy put in white,
Mm-hmm.
that it was. But we worked with a grant, which is no longer available, with the Sea Turtle Conservancy, and they actually came in and gave us a grant and replaced all of our light fixtures with sea turtle compliant light fixtures. We just had to pay for installation. And so now we have an all orange shaded
There you go.
lights across our building, and guess what? We don't have sea turtles no longer showing up in our swimming pool.
Right.
Good.
So these things matter, and I've seen it personally.
Yes. They do.
And I know that you guys just did an enforcement activity, because I know other properties have received notices of that, so I know you guys are being active on this.
So not to beat this to death, and I know I'm the new guy, but I'm going to shut up, right? I keep saying that. But what I'm hearing, this is all reactive. If you see a violation, you're doing something. If you flip it around and you say, okay, if you've got a small condo, or if you're the property manager of a small condo, or if you're the owner of the Serrata, just to pick a name, not to pick on the Serrata, or anything in that spectrum, right? Then once every X number of years or time, you need to come to the St. Pete Beach. Here's what you do to protect sea turtle stuff. And you need to take that class, you need to pass that class. And as a result of doing that, you're going to get X number of these cards, and you're going to know what to do and what not to do. And that would be a proactive program to push out there to the folks that are right on the beach, that have the opportunity to put these problems out there, and we're proactively educating them and giving them the tools to stop that from happening.
Well,
Just a thought.
It's interesting, it sounds like you were at our workshop where she brought up
Did you bring that up?
She brought up, being proactive and doing a campaign annually, not just sea turtle lighting and friendliness, but all things beach, dogs on the beach, all of those.
Right.
With the hotels, right? I'm stealing your thunder.
Yeah.
It's an idea.
I would just, on the turtle nesting, and now is a good time to do that.
Seabirds.
because,
I don't recall if it's in our current ordinance, but our current ordinance does have two types. It has things that were in it, fixtures and what to do about things that were in existence prior to the ordinance, and then it has stricter rules for things that are, being constructed after the ordinance. And this is, the ordinance that was written 15 years ago, whatever. And I don't recall if it has any rules about, for instance, room lighting, about closing curtains or not. But if it does, I know that, certain cities have rules that, like, someone from code enforcement goes out at sunset and tells the hotel, hey, these are the rooms, go get those people to close their curtains. Now, if we have that in our current ordinance, that might be one of the things that we could be doing at night, but I don't recall if it's in our current ordinance. But, that's the awareness that we could be doing, and then, that would be fantastic during at least, those couple of months of turtle season.
Yeah.
Not the rest of the year, obviously, but, you know, when it counts.
We do take a proactive approach, just so you're aware. Every year, staff is involved, and I have done it myself, in notifying everyone who's fronting the beach. We've actually handed out our existing
Oh, good for you. Terrific.
codes.
That's
And so
terrific, man. Yeah.
anyone who has been in this city for the last several years on the beach will never make the claim that they've not heard from code enforcement at some point, right? They cannot, because as I said, we have had a yearly proactive approach in notifying anyone with a beachfront property that it is turtle season and it's time to, as you said,
That's
turn
huge.
your lights.
I had no idea.
Yes,
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome, but
Absolutely.
it's part of our responsibility, especially during turtle season, and the code is specific that we are to do inspections, especially just prior to turtle season, and to do certain evaluations during turtle season. So it's not as if we're not proactive. We are.
I didn't mean to imply that you
No, that's
weren't.
fine.
And by the way, I'm just, you know, sorry if I'm thinking out loud, but we don't have to even use a shotgun approach. We can be very accurate, because we have people that are marking every nest. Like people going out every morning and looking for the new nest. And they know how long it takes for these nests to hatch.
Correct.
So they actually could be identifying that this is the nest that we expect to hatch in the next week or so. So this is the area, and I'm getting a head nod, so maybe not, but I think we could be roughly accurate that we know areas to focus on to say, hey, make sure people close their windows in this area and not waste your time, really, bashing people about windows where there's no nest. That's all I was
Right.
trying to get at.
And we, to that point, we do work closely with Turtle Watch Group, and we get in touch with Turtle Joe and his wife, and they're very helpful. They're great team to work with, and so we're out there with them as well. I think staff has reached out and will be doing an evaluation of the beach with them in the near future.
I met him yesterday.
There you go. Right. So yeah, we work closely with the group that is out on the beach daily during turtle season.
That's a great report, Pete. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do we want to ask for the specifics of what code enforcement has asked for the
For
budget?
funding?
For funding, and have that delivered to us?
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
willing to
Yeah.
take that and then any other departments and go have a conversation
Yeah.
with the city manager on our behalf.
Yeah.
So if you're willing, let us know.
Give us your wish list.
Yes.
Like I was mentioning, 2 vehicles.
Could
so
you
that-
send it to me, through
yeah, sure.
IACO via email, so we
and a
just,
Polaris. That's
yep.
not much. Maybe 80 to 100,000.
2 vehicles?
2 vehicles and a Polaris.
Okay. Was there any other departments, IACO?
Nothing that's reached out to me specifically.
Gas powered or electric?
Gas
Yeah.
power.
Okay,
I mean, beach maintenance would fall under public services now, and then,
I'll reach out to.
marketing, I guess Mark
Marketing
Portugal.
was for the campaign that I put in there for that. I'll have a conversation with the city manager.
Do you need more of these fancy pants cards that you can't see exit signs with?
I can get
I'm
you-
happy that you brought that back up. We had those printed, and that's why it's courtesy of code enforcement, because I reached out to the printer who was advertising these, and
I mean, that's
he
huge.
sent us about 300 of those.
I can see the little kids at night like,
Yes.
oh, look, Mommy, look that. It's like.
Interesting you say that.
Right?
Code enforcement actually went to the public services, or not public services, across the street to
Recreation.
recreational department.
Okay.
And the children in the after-school program, we had code enforcement showing them the differentiations between
Right.
lights, and handed out a few of those. And
Yeah,
the
I mean,
kids were all impressed with our presentation.
I've been a volunteer with the Friends of the Library for almost 10 years now, and the Friends of the Library could, I'm not speaking on behalf of them, but free-forming them, we could co-sponsor some cost, buy some of those things, and I could see the circulation desk tipping one of those things in every book, that known resident on the beach
Great
gets
idea.
out the door.
We would be happy to,
Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Gets the talk going.
Yes.
and-
we would be happy to have additional presentations. Like you just mentioned, if you have an organization that you would like staff to attend a meeting and make a presentation,
Yeah.
we're more than happy to do that, because
Yeah,
code
that's-
enforcement,
That's good.
Yes.
That's really good. But what I have found is that when you put it in their hands, it's completely different than when
Sure.
you ask them to grab it for themselves.
What- Have they been given, you know, to each resort manager, or like when you send them a notice of violation, you put it in the envelope?
oh, that's not a bad idea. I think we should
I
start
mean,
doing that.
we think you have an issue, but hey, check for yourself.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Even before the violation.
Yeah, right,
Just go
right.
hand them out now, say,
Exactly.
this is what we're using.
We haven't inspected, maybe you want to inspect first.
Do you know what the cost is for those?
I think around $3. Maybe
$3 a piece?
they might have gone up, but yes.
Good.
Maybe we can make our own, get the supplies,
Good
a
idea.
bunch of gels and.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're okay, we can move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you.
Anything else? I'm assuming there's no public comment on
Could you stay for some of the other things? I think there's some other topics. Thank you.
any public comment for Steve? All right, move to D, continued enforcement on the beach for dogs, e-bikes, alcohol consumption. I
Yeah.
echo, I think you brought a
Right, so
new thing.
this was a zero tolerance campaign from the Sheriff's Department, targeting, keeping dogs at home, keep the dunes clean, and keep drinks off public beaches. This was increased patrols, notices given on social media, all the city's social media, our website, and posted on the 75th and the Bayway as you came across into the city. The results of that, if I could have the overhead, please, on, and you all have a copy of the results in front of you. So you can see the number of citations and the number of verbal warnings that were effectively given in that period between February 14th and April 30th.
Can, open
Yes.
for discussion?
Yes?
So, is there anything here about anyone doing anything bad to the dunes?
Dogs, glass.
And I find it sort of ironic, because what brought on the whole zero tolerance concept was a discussion at a city commission meeting about people abusing the dunes. And then at the end, it sort of was a discussion that, well, they're not marked yet, and so forth. And here we are, and I don't even see any dune offenses.
The dog off leash could be, but
Well,
definitely the water.
There's always
I've
been
seen-
dog
I've
issues.
seen dogs off leashes in the dunes.
There's always been dogs, yeah. I mean, dogs is an issue on its own.
To your point, I've seen dogs off leashes in the dunes, relieving themselves all through it, running
Yeah,
wild.
there's always-
I even saw a dog chasing one of the officers that were speeding to an issue.
Are you gonna be kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. The dog was chasing the, what do you call them, the Polaris?
Yeah. Dogs will always, dogs are a different issue, and that's the other question I have, is we have dogs off leash, dogs on leash, and then dog on beach off leash. What is that third category, and how is it distinguished from the other two? Does that mean dog off, I'm sorry, I just don't understand how there could be three.
This is the Sheriff's Department's, with the way they categorize their warnings, I guess.
Maybe the first off leash wasn't on the beach.
That actually is a new category, as far as I've seen. It had never previously been given me that third
I was looking at those, I
option.
couldn't figure out how to distinguish them.
Yeah, they're either on the leash or off the leash and on the beach, right? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So one of the
Those are my
things-
questions.
I don't know if we ever had the category of people on dune, and maybe go back, to Vice Chair Kurzman now. Point is, did they give any warnings of people being on the dune? Because I don't think that was.
According to this, they did
But
not.
They might not have had the category, so they didn't count it.
Right.
The second is, the good thing is, they did put up some rope and post fencing,
Right.
especially down in Passagrow. and up by the secret garden there. And as I've walked, I used to see footprints, and kids climbing up there. Hey, I'm the king of the mountain, with that rope and post. You don't see many footprints. You still see a couple of people literally going over the rope and post fence and running through over the wall that is still there to get to their car and run back. I saw the footprints to do it. So we've seen I have seen less evidence of bad behavior on the dunes, which is great, but
When you see those footprints, just out of curiosity, how far is the nearest crossover or sign about a crossover?
Sometimes right next
How
to the
lazy are they
crossover.
being?
very,
I saw where someone drug a cooler through the Passaville Dunes around like 22nd, and it's right next to the walkway.
Yep.
There was a city person. We both looked at it because we thought, was that a turtle? But it didn't have the right markings, but they drug a cooler straight through the dune, which isn't really quite a dune right there. It goes more to that vegetation there, but
yes.
we both were like, what is this? And
The rope should
why
make it-
didn't they use the walkway right next
Which
to
is
it?
right
The
there.
rope should make it less convenient to do that than the crossover.
Yes,
They had-
probably.
Was that where the wall, that's where the wall's still standing?
Yes, it's
So
flat.
they literally
Yeah,
put it over the wall, jumped the wall, and drug it.
instead of going up the ramp.
The other interesting thing I see here is, obviously dogs are a big issue. Glass on the beach, terrible. There's 47 of those, there's 71, of the dogs on the beach. And then there's 303 alcohol on the beach. And for the alcohol on the beach, I was talking to some residents, and the consensus was that, and this is not, it's just commenting on alcohol on the beach, is that there wasn't a big concern. There's a big concern about people bringing alcohol onto the beach, just random people bringing alcohol and getting drunk. But there wasn't a big concern about people who bought alcohol stepping out of the zone with their cup. And yet, in our at least our new ordinance, it's like it can almost be a war where people have to guard that nobody steps too far with their cup, beyond the line. And so I just hope that we think about that. I would wonder if this alcohol on the beach is that because they carried their tradesman's cup, 10 feet too far, or whether they just, they brought a six-pack and that beer shouldn't have been there on the beach in the first place. But I guess we can't tell from this, what it was.
Can't tell.
So this is spring break. I did quick math, 75 days, 300 alcohol violations, it's 4 a day. We need to thank Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, certainly.
As I received this and I'm thinking about it and looking at it, is for a good portion of this time, as you came onto the island, there was a flashing sign, no alcohol, no dogs.
Yeah.
And then it came down, and then I think it came back up because
Now it says
we have
skimmers.
the skimmers like that.
Right.
So we have this, and we have in most places, as you go onto the public beaches and public access, you have a sign saying, no dogs, no booze on the beach.
I think it was in one of the minutes I read last night that said every public beach access along the barrier islands in Pinellas County has a sign. No?
About different
We
things.
lost a few, I think, with the
We've
storm.
lost a few of the
Yeah,
storm,
last
but
night.
so the vast majority maybe. Yeah,
Something we can review, but it's just kind of interesting in human behavior that signs alone are not stopping the behavior. Because there should be kind of no doubt coming onto this island during this time,
right.
don't do this. And they still did this.
Which, the alcohol?
The dogs, the alcohol,
Well, it was spring break. I mean, this
Yeah.
is skewed data,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So, but what I like is no dogs, black skimmers.
Yeah.
That completes the equation for me.
Which they
If it's
did-
no alcohol or no dogs, just no one responds to that. I mean,
but still they knew and they still did it.
yeah.
I actually took a picture of a guy with in a sort of a motorcycle with his dog in the basket, drinking a beer.
There you go.
On the beach.
On the
That's
beach.
the trifecta on the beach.
With an Elon sucks sign on the side. I was just like, oh my God. Anyway, I didn't engage him, but I just found
The
that.
electric sign is over at the Pasadena bridge that comes across. It's still sitting on Gulf Boulevard, but it's not active. It's turned sideways. It'd be nice if they could turn that back on, maybe,
Okay.
with the skimmer, no dog skimmers on the beach.
Yep.
That would be helpful.
I can let
I
Cheryl
love
know.
coming across and seeing it when I come across Pasadena.
The reason I brought up there were signs and all that in human behavior, and we're still getting this. It gets
Right.
back to your point at the workshop, and what you brought up is being proactive. What else can we be doing to be proactive in campaigning to the hotels,
Yeah.
to our citizens, and to our visitors of what the rules are? And which gets back into our goals that we talked about at the workshop, and working with the city manager and marketing of what kind of proactive campaigns year-round can we be doing, saying, hey, we all need to be reinforcing this, as well as continuing to encourage the sheriff's office to continue to hold people accountable to what the rules are. Now, we could choose to have a debate about warnings versus tickets, right?
Well,
But I think having them be active in doing code enforcement for these items, which one could argue wasn't happening prior to Q1, is something we as a committee should continue, in my opinion, to encourage, to
right.
support.
So just a brief thought. We all know how intrusive, condo association boards can be on condo living, right? Not to add to that. But, if the condo association, generically speaking, is also serving as policing turtle lighting, then we have just grown our code enforcement effort by leaps and bounds at very little cost. It's just education and tools.
Mhm.
And it becomes, over the years, it becomes commonplace for a condo association, board of officials, right, to, here's what you're going to do on a weekly, or to your point, when we know we've got an active nest,
Really
then
focus.
here's the window, 2-week window of time, whatever it is. Let's be hyper vigilant. So I'm just trying to think of creative ways to get that message out and create more eyeballs on the problem, so the problem goes away.
All could be a part of the campaign.
Yeah.
And something that you mentioned, I mean, you talked about, 300, violations, might average, 4 a day over a 75-day period, because, spring break, has a lot of people on the beach.
Right.
But, I've been looking at the beach recently, and I've gone out on a number of weekdays, and, I'm comparing it to other years, and I think we've got a new issue here. I could count the number of people I could see on the beach. It's a different situation now between the number of hotels that have not reopened, and the number of bars and restaurants, that have not reopened.
Right.
And just, seas of empty chairs, or chairs that are not even out there. The people aren't even there. It's to me, very sad to see so few people on the beach. I mean, you just don't have anything to patrol right now in many cases. So, we can't have, at certain times you can certainly have expectations that the police have a lot to do. And other times, I'm certainly glad that the sheriff's organization has never been an organization to have quotas or anything like that. And they've always been terrific. And this has been a terrific organization. And I just want to make sure people don't look at low numbers like in the Cumming report and go, what are these guys doing? Because, maybe on the weekend there's a lot of traffic. When they have the holidays, obviously there's going to be a lot of activity and a lot to do those days. But on a lot of the weekdays right now, there's very little activity on the beach.
Well, kind
Good or
of,
bad?
just to your point, imagine what these numbers were would be if we were at full capacity.
Oh, my God, yeah, you're right.
As well as we have an opportunity that as these hotels are opening up, having the city work with them proactively to get this new messaging in saying,
That's it.
hey, here are the rules. Protect the wildlife, be it the turtles, be it the birds, be it like that. No dogs, no e-bikes, no alcohol unless you're in this zone. Get them as they're opening back up to start the right behavior now versus having code enforcement having to come back and use the stick.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
okay. Any, are we finished?
Well, we could talk about e-bikes, but, you know, I've had discussions with people, but when we did talk about ordinances, we could talk about whether e-bikes are appropriate on the beach in certain areas, but we don't have to beat that now.
I think that's a state ordinance. It's not.
No, it's not.
It's a city ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. Any public comments on this?
Yes, Leslie Price.
Please come up, state your name and your address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Leslie Price. I'm 6650 Sunset Way, and I'm loving this meeting. The energy and the excitement and the positivity is just so refreshing. So thank you all very much for that. In the part that John said about letting people know when a turtle nest is going to hatch, there would be so many people just lined up waiting, and the turtles would never, like, they would probably scream and go back down under. There'd be so many people with cameras and
Oh, you don't want them to
things
know.
like that.
Okay.
Don't make it public.
Don't let
So,
them-
yeah,
That's a good
when
point.
something is going to hatch is a big thing to keep quiet for the benefit of the turtles. It's just really essential.
Okay.
Well, I meant our people, our code enforcement people should know to focus on, I guess it would be a telltale, but we don't have to let everybody know
Yes.
why they're focusing on that hotel?
Exactly. Yeah.
How about that?
But
Okay.
if you told everyone
If you
that's
tell them
in that
something's going to
range,
happen,
then it's going to get out.
Yeah, I know where the president is based on when the drone alerts tell me not to fly my drone, but we still don't let people fly the drones.
That's
But
a good
okay.
point.
right. Also, as far as the renourishment that we've been talking about, I was also part of the planting that went on at Upland Beach and all the organizations that worked together. Again, just a fabulous day. But what was really disconcerting is that that area made it through the hurricane just fine. It was after all the people and the vehicles that were driving over it because it was not well marked. And the volleyball groups, both formal and informal, as well as just, there wasn't as much beach, so many vehicles had to go around the far side. And I went there a couple of days ago and just took a few pictures, and I really had to hunt for any little bit of grass that was left. So making sure that anything we do plant is well protected with the rope and such was, I think, real important part that you guys mentioned.
Who put this volleyball, somebody put volleyball nets in the dunes? Is that what you're saying?
They're right next to it.
No.
They're right next to it, and so people are at the beach and they want to gather, obviously, by where the volleyball courts are, and they put up their tents because they're there all day. So it's fairly natural, but even the informal ones, that's kind of a little bit quieter spot, so that's where they're going to be.
It's hard to tell because the COs we planted it's not really a dune, it's more just kind of
Flat.
Right.
flat. So it's hard to see
net-
that it's
Exactly, and that's,
supposed to be a dune area.
yeah, if it's not marked and they don't see it.
Yeah.
With the market.
Just-
So when we planted, we had the benches moved up, and I was disappointed to see that they didn't put rope and post where
You have to.
those, like that, so
We tried
maybe we can
little
have,
modified ones with little tiny flags and little colored, but
Yeah.
just didn't.
maybe we can have a discussion with,
Just, I think that needs to be part of the funding and the overall project
Yep.
from the outset.
right,
I still have any time?
no, that's it, sorry.
Well, we took some of her time.
Do we want to agree to give her some more time?
Yeah, we were talking during
Okay.
her
Very
time.
quickly, okay. No bikes
All right, we
No
didn't give her.
at
You
all.
leaned into that one, John.
I know.
And also with the lighting, you guys have touched on many things that I've been really concerned and been working on with lighting and education. And I'm in one of the condo areas that is really, really poor about paying attention to their lighting and bad lighting. But what I've also noticed, two things after the hurricane, when people were so concerned about security and safety because everything was just a mess, and they were grabbing any light bulb they could find, you know, so that they could see what was going on around them and for their safety of where the holes and, you know, debris was. So a lot of lighting went up very quickly in response to what they needed to do. And I'm still seeing that there and kind of a little bit more of that trend. And I'm not sure who mentioned like the lack of, or less vegetation, actually over here, or maybe Zach, that also really made it much brighter on the beach overall. But the second part of that as well is that now people are using the lights on their cameras, and those are so bright. And obviously, we can't take a little thing to every person on the beach, but I think that needs to be part of the education with lighting now, is the use of cell phone flashlights on the beach that are just so brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further comments?
Yes, Justine Bragg.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Justine Bragg, 5250 Gulf Boulevard, representing Bellwether Beach Resort. And just wanted to make a comment about the alcohol and the citations and during that period of time. And as Mr. Kurzman had mentioned, that there are several, at least 4 specifically big resorts that were closed during this time period, which obviously opens up the beach to more of a public spring break atmosphere. And I would just like to speak on behalf, and you mentioned, Mr. Stevens, about working with hotels and educating them to help with our guests. We took a big piece of our cabanas and our alcohol service, our responsible alcohol service, out of this part of the year because so many resorts were closed. Therefore, many more people, even though the lack thereof, because I have noticed that, but on weekends and in certain peaks, we saw a pickup in people, but they're at the mercy of themselves to be out on the beach and bringing. We no longer had that service offered on the beach to offer the responsible alcohol service to help educate the guests that come out to our beaches. And just speaking on behalf of our resort, that is a very big, we have signage all out if we were up and operating. We educate our guests and allow them and tell them what it is, what are the codes. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of the resorts that we all agree with helping control the beach and helping be able to put those limits and educate the team, and that also will go in hand. I wanted to speak more on that alcohol just because we brought up with the citations, but also with the lighting, the education, I couldn't agree more, and I think that the tool that Mr. Dewar showed was amazing, and I think every one of us should have access. I know I have worked with him over the years to be compliant, and he does very proactive approach. So I just wanted to be able to mention that anything you're able to bring up to the commission, the resort, we want this as well, and we want to be able to work together to educate our guests and travelers alike.
I couldn't hear, which resort were you?
Bellwether Beach Resort.
Oh, so you haven't been open, so.
So yes, Bellwether Beach Resort and our sister property Beachcomber has not been open. So that was also part, big pieces on the beach during this period, along with a few other resorts. So.
Do you mind me asking, how you guys coming? Are you Jimmy B's and so forth? Are you guys going to be reopening again, or?
We are, yes. So that's the plan. So we, I don't want to say too much, but we're hoping to have those.
Whatever you want to say.
Yep, dates. But yes, we are planning to reopen. We are coming back. So it's just a matter of just doing everything correctly and getting built back.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for being proactive in helping us protect the beach.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
That's it.
All right.
So, John, before we move on, real quick, to talk about the stuff at Upland Beach reminded me, there's been a project on the books with the city to remodel, whatever, the parking at the beach plaza at Upland. And that's been on the books for like, I don't know, 3-4 years. And it's been delayed, from my understanding, right or wrong, because of the concerned issues with the coastal construction line, these sorts of things. And when I last saw it, it looked to me like where there's sea oats, grassy plant material now, just on the west side of that seawall at Upland. some of that may become parking. So
I've never heard that. That's interesting.
I don't know
They
if
were
that's, Aka, have you?
No, I'm not aware of any such
Okay.
thing. I mean,
Can you
They-
check on that and see?
It'd be
we
interesting.
have Brandon Berry here. Do you know anything about that? No.
No?
You would know.
Yes.
So maybe they just died with lack of funding and it's not viable anymore. I don't know.
There is
It's the first I've ever heard of it.
Okay.
There is a company, a consulting firm that's here right now doing a whole survey about parking for the whole city.
Yeah.
And actually, I personally, gave input about parking in that very area, but not regarding expanding it into the beach area in any way.
So this was early on in Al Johnson's term as mayor that I remember hearing about this. So it would probably be good if we could just find out if that's still on the back burner or if there's budget not allocated to it or if it's just dead. So
I didn't hear
Because
it mentioned in the budget
that's,
workshop.
if that's in the future, we need to know about that.
Yes. Okay. Move on to E, status of beach ordinance and lighting ordinance.
Okay, Brandon, would you like to speak about the beach ordinance?
Hi, good morning, Brandon Berry, planner. We have a community meeting in a similar format to the one that was held about a month ago for the noise ordinance. We're scheduling that. We don't have a date set yet. The reason for that is we have a bill that's made it through the legislature. It's before the governor for signature that would significantly affect planning efforts, which most of the beach ordinance is in the code of ordinances, but there might be items that we need to discuss as staff and with the city attorney on whether they can move forward or whether they might need to be modified. So it's pending that. We want to make sure that the meeting is focused on the items that can actually be addressed. If they can all be addressed, it's not clear at this time. So I think we're looking at sometime in June. We'll get it on the website. We'll make sure that the Beach Stewardship Committee knows when that community meeting is going to be held. As for the lighting ordinance, despite the fact that FDEP is the one who prepared this model ordinance, there are some items in there that also pertain to development, and that it's Senate Bill 180, if any of the members have been tracking that. It is fairly expansive in its restrictions, so we don't have any guidance on that yet. We're going ordinance by ordinance, and we're hoping to have more information soon, but we expect by the end of June for the governor to take action on that Senate bill one way or another, so we should have more guidance in the near future. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Brandon, thanks for being here. I'm coming late to the party,
It's okay.
and I know you guys have been hammering on this beach ordinance for like, what, 3 years? 2 years, trying to, bring together all these disparate rules. But what I've heard is recently the approach has changed a bit to where it's, we are now looking at piece by piece by piece. Is that a good way to?
I think the focus was to really hear from the community at the community meeting. We had a similar one for the noise ordinance recently, and just meet out what's the community's focus at this point in time? How should we be handling this? The guidance we received from the commission last summer was to bring this forward as one document. If the request is to split it up, we'd be happy to do so. There are behavioral and conduct and maintenance related items in the ordinance that seemed fairly controversial, at least as I understood them. Those would not be affected by that Senate bill. So anything related to requiring a permit to operate a business on the beach or anything dealing with dogs or noise or anything like that, that would all be exempt from any effect the Senate bill would have. So those items could be brought forward separately.
That's an approach the commission will ultimately decide once
Correct.
they hear from this.
Yes.
It was my understanding was the first, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, because it was even before I was on, 3 years ago, it was, hey, we have beach rules all over the place and it's
Right.
hard to understand them all. Let's all put them in a place. And John, I know that the process of doing that was messy, and I know you have opinions of that, but ultimately was to get one place that people could easily understand, businesses, residents, everyone, here's the rules. And that went through several cycles, and now they we had a thing right before the hurricanes that it was going to go, and then the hurricanes came, and then there was players, different legal and city manager, all that kind of changed through all of this.
Right.
Now they had their first reading, and now they're trying to decide with all of this, do you try and get it all at once or go into parts, but
Right.
still the process was still to get it all in one place to make it easy for everyone to understand, here are the rules of the beach.
And this is more of a housekeeping thing, but while you're here, I talked with Vice Mayor Marriott this morning, and apparently the Senate, I don't know, but the folks in Tallahassee, there's something on the books about if one aspect of an ordinance is challenged, the entire ordinance is temporarily shut down. That's what I was told this morning. So, do you know anything about that?
That's part of the Senate bill. Now, I guess upside of that would be that they can't automatically go to appeal if the city were to pass an ordinance and one piece of it were to be found invalid in the context of the bill. They have to give us some time to cure. So it's not that it necessarily invalidates everything within the ordinance. We do have time to cure, but that is, if it does make it to court and it's found invalid, it would potentially do that.
So, go ahead. Well, the irony is, we're trying to, collect all this stuff into one bucket, right?
But maybe it's safer separate.
To make it safer. And now maybe it's going to backfire if we get, so maybe we do both. We say, hey, here's the beach ordinance, here's the bucket of beach rules, ordinances. And then we have all these disparate ding, 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 ding. This is your purview. Ordinances for the noise, ordinance for the sea turtle, ordinance for but it's all, that's why I say it's housekeeping.
Yeah, so originally I was a beach steward when we started this project, and then a number of the beach stewards, 2 of them, actually became city commissioners. But I've been consistent through this, and originally it did start as housekeeping, and originally I don't think Brandon, I don't think you were really involved with it because you've been brought in later, and there's been a lot of moving parts. We've had attorney changes and all sorts of things, and so I think that's part of the issue is that a lot of people have changed and come into it as its goals even changed. And I think that originally when people were looking at it, it's not really an opinion, but as things move sections, for instance, we have a chapter called animals, and for whatever reason, if the animal section said, you don't feed the birds in the parks or the beach, and someone crosses out the word beach, because now we have a beach section, it's just disconcerting to have an animal section that says, don't feed the birds in the park, and have it no longer mention the beach. Normally, your animal section stays, your alcohol section stays, and you cross-reference, you put everything together. So those are the kind of inconsistencies that concern me. And so one thing was just administratively, we wanted to make sure all of our other chapters didn't get harmed by putting things together. But then from a standpoint that really hit us was there was the law about the business impact estimate that had to be done. And that was what actually suspended the beach ordinance a year or so ago. Because when that Senate bill happened, when we said, oh wow, we have to do business impact estimates, what's everything going to cost? Every change we make has to be calculated. That suspended things. Then there was a resurgence in looking at this, and I think that's when you were asked to get involved again and look at everything. And now we've got the Senate bill, which I'm hearing may even affect things like the turtle ordinance aspects or the turtle things. And here we have a model ordinance the state has for how do you protect the turtles. And I watching the planning board, meeting you just had, I think I heard maybe you or somebody was saying that even those kind of things may be affected by, is that true, that possibly?
The development-related elements of it, yes. For some of the more maintenance-related items, like you had brought up earlier, the standards for existing developments, changing out bulbs and making them long wavelength, or putting sconces on, things like that would almost definitely not be affected by this because those are more maintenance related and those are exempted through the statute definition. But anything pertaining to new development that is more burdensome or restrictive, that's, new buildings, new construction, that's where it becomes an issue.
No, it says land development and it says conditional use, What about your regular muni code, like your regular activities? Can those become more strict, or is it only the land development and the CUP that gets more restrictive?
So the term they use, and there is a definition for this in statute, it's a development permit, which includes any building permit. It's any zoning approval. For example, we approve signs, even though they're not receiving a conditional use or a site plan. So it's anything within that scope, but maintenance activities, those are exempt. So there are certain things in the model ordinance that require adoption of overlays, and there might be other ways to achieve that. We just really need to sit down and parse out what that'll be.
Like chairs on the beach might be.
If I may
Yeah.
point, are we jumping into item G here?
What was G?
Overlapping a little bit, I could talk about Senate Bill 8.
Oh, well, because he's the
Because we're kind of going back, I think we got the status,
Yeah, I didn't realize about the status. Well, it's sort of the same. Okay. Yeah.
but it's,
Okay.
we can choose, we can
No,
step back and choose, or we,
No,
I just want to try and keep us
Fine.
on track.
It's the status. Okay. Can you stay for later? For G?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, come back for G. Okay, thank you.
Are you able to speak to the lighting ordinance is the same?
It's the same. I think there are only a few items in there that we need to talk over as staff and with the attorney. Most of it is more maintenance-related requirements, so I don't think it's really pertaining to development particularly, but we just need to go through the model lighting ordinance. And there's really nothing in the Senate bill that exempts state-prepared ordinances, but it was prepared by FDEP, it received their blessing, it's still posted on their website, and this Senate bill applies to the entire state as it's currently written, so we'll need to talk through how we're going to address that.
I do have a question about the status of the beach ordinance. As you go from like the first reading to the second reading, I noticed that there were new things introduced in the beach ordinance. For instance, like chickie huts. All of a sudden there was rules about, you could have chickie huts. How did things like that get into the beach ordinance, like between readings like that? I mean, it wasn't like someone added it because, like, who would add that? Like, who would ask for that?
So we did add a few items that what I remember drafting was to address some of the concerns that were brought up by the hotels. I don't remember adding anything on chickie huts. We do have a tiki hut section, so it's possible it was consolidated in from the land development code, but chickie huts are regulated by the state, really. They're outside the building code, so we might have just been certifying that. I don't remember.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Yes, Jolyn Lawson.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
Oh, sure. So Jolyn Lawson, it's 5407 Leilani Drive. Although I'm not living there now because the house is substantially damaged.
Sorry to hear that.
I don't get to walk on the beach as often as I used to, but I was out last week on Thursday, like 9:30 p.m., looking at lighting from different condos, and I know we've been talking about that. So I just thought I would share some pictures that I found when I was walking, and maybe these are already things that you all recognize, and perhaps code enforcement and IOCO also, because I know you've been talking about that in citing violations. So I don't know, maybe this is all things that you already know, but I was at least thought, wow, there are a lot of lights coming from certain sections on the beach, and it's turtle nesting season, so I thought I would bring those up.
Could we have the overhead, please, Jamie?
Joel, and that's huge. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, sure.
I can't wait to see what you got.
And if you can email them in afterwards so they can become part of the public record too, that would be helpful.
Oh, sure. So
It's a great idea.
See, Mark?
So I live off of 55th, and then this is the parking lot there with Serrata, or here's Serrata, and then we've got Seymour.
Seymour, yeah.
But this is, I believe, called Sunrise. And actually, it kind of blows up just with a white light on the phone there. But between the beach and Sunrise condo is the parking lot for trade lights. So that looks pretty bright. Then, let's see, we have, this is Serrata. Some you can tell are yellow, although it's hard with this projector, and then some are white, but there also are strings of lights around the pool deck.
For the record, do you remember what you said Thursday of last week?
Thursday of last week, yes.
Yeah, so I was out there just Monday night, and those are all the properties that we did identify as well.
Okay, and then the last one, I guess, was, let's see, standing on, so looking north, this is Envoy Point, and then up there by Secret Garden. So this is just me standing in front of Tradewind's property looking north. So it's bright.
Yes.
Looks like a little lighthouse. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you this morning, those pictures.
Were those just the lights in the windows of the?
Yes, that's what it looks like. They could also be lights on the property, and I know that when you walk by at night, it doesn't look like there are a lot of people there because their hurricane shutters are closed, but then at night, it really is lit up. So I'm not sure.
Thank you for sharing, and
Thank you.
as City Council asked, if you could email them into the clerk's office, that would be great to do.
And then I saw some of those pictures yesterday, and some of them are just simply light bulbs that are mounted outside on walkways, which I've talked about before. They're just white lights that are on the walkway. Some are yellow, and I don't know if they would be the spec, but they're white, and we've had in the code, for years, even if they're pre-existing
Right.
fixtures, to change them to the right bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments?
Leslie Price?
Pete, did you want to say anything about the lighting ordinance?
Pete Dewar, Code Enforcement Manager for the City of St. Pete Beach. The only addition I would say is the existing ordinance for beachfront lighting is adequate enough for us to be able to enforce the code. I've seen the FWC ordinance. It would create a lot of difficulty for staff to enforce if it was to be adopted. Part of the difficulty involves the expectation that we're to be on private property at 10, 9:30, 11 at night, and that is not going to happen. One, I guarantee you none of you would want us on your property at that time of night. The way that it's currently done based on the ordinance that we have is I just showed you, and like you just saw, you can be on the beach, not on anyone's private property at dead of night, and still be able to enforce the ordinance as it's currently written. And we know that the FWC ordinance, as you mentioned, although it's pretty comprehensive, thorough, it would create limitations for us because we had an FWC representative who showed us how they go about taking these readings, and you have to be on someone's property right up against the light to have the spectrometer read the accuracy of whether it's a long or short light. The way it's currently being done, we are able to get quicker results and not put staff at risk or anybody else at risk of being on their private property. So I would, maybe some tweaks to the existing ordinance would be helpful, but full scale adoption of the FWC ordinance, I would not recommend.
Could you recommend those tweaks? Because
That's where I was going.
I mean, we've had scenarios where we've had people who just swearing that and I've taken pictures, and people have taken pictures where they think they've seen non-compliant lighting for, times but then other times they say, well, the city says there's full compliance, and they're like, well, there's a disconnect, and how do we fix the disconnect?
So think of what you just observed based on the lighting in here, right? Yes, I have seen some of those pictures that were presented to the commission. For example, Tradewinds, there's a huge light on one of their buildings. I mean, you can't miss it. There's a huge light on the top of the building. That light is, and it was presented as in violation, that light is compliant based on our lens that we use. Now, if we use a spectrometer, you might get a different reading depending on the length of the light. But the point is, even though it's presented as in violation, and so, for example, we just saw some pictures, I'm not saying that any of those lights are compliant, but if we put it through that lens, it might tell us a different story. Again, understanding that what was presented, they all look like they're in violation.
To be frank, people keep going out and taking pictures. I've gone out, I've looked, I said, look at these white lights. And it makes people think that code enforcement is not doing, getting mad at people they think they should be mad at. So how can we make it that people realize that they're not seeing, how do we make it that everybody realizes that code enforcement is doing it, and it's the law that needs to be tweaked? Or how do we make it that we're all on the same page, that this is not like, rules are being ignored?
So for example, let's look at the exit sign light, right? If a resort or some other private property had that light and it was bright at night, you would think it's a violation. But you clearly saw when you looked through that lens that that amber light can't be observed, hopefully, by a turtle, right? But this idea that we're not out there, I will attest to, we're out there every year. I have been doing this personally, doing this since 2016, where I have printed 50-odd copies of our existing ordinance and handed them out to beachfront properties. Every single year we've done that. Staff has actually now ratcheted up, not just handing out the ordinance, but sending notices of violation. Like Kayako can attest. She was out there Monday night. We have been doing this since 2016 during turtle season every year since 2016. So this idea that we're not out there, I will tell you right now that that's a fallacy. We are out there every year doing what we have to do pursuant to the ordinance that we have to enforce. Now, I guess part of the answer to your question of getting us all on the same page is, I guess, what we're doing right now is communicating, and you guys are, I'm hoping, being enlightened to the point that we're out there. I think the young lady just told you that we take a proactive approach, and she's a potential violator, and she just told you that we're out being proactive, right? I'm not saying she's in violation now, but the point is, at any point in time, we can go by bellwether and see some light that could be in violation.
So like the lights I'm thinking on the side of that building that are white, if I go with that blue thing, I'm probably going to see that either I don't see them, or maybe the blue thing isn't as perfect as I think, and
I think they found violations on Monday. They just haven't been written up yet. So those were in violation.
Okay.
And citizens can report by address any violations for investigation.
Okay, thank you.
As long as you provide your full name and address, which is a new state law.
State law. Yeah.
It's not code enforcement being difficult. We have to abide by it.
So I go back to your very first statement about changing or not changing the original code to the new one. I would think we should consider asking, and this should be for any ordinance, is what changes would code enforcement like to be made to the new proposal so it is more friendly or more approachable for them to hold people accountable? So I would ask, can you look at and make suggestions to Brandon or whomever is leading it for the staff, what changes you would like, and then bring those back to us so we can consider? Because I think we're already down the path that, hey, we want to go down this, but I also don't want to I don't think we want to put something in place that is unenforceable.
Right.
So I've always said, hey, here's the intent, here are the things we want to do, let the staff and the attorneys go word it, because we can get caught in wording, but also say, code enforcement, what do you need in there to make sure it's enforceable? So it's a process. So it sounds like you would like some changes into that to make it at least in your current staffing and the tools you have to make it that you can enforce this new one. I would encourage or ask you to make those recommendations, and I would love to see them.
Okay. And so we do work closely with staff, including Mr. Berry and Mr. Brooks. So we're in communication with these ordinances because they do affect, you can write hundreds of ordinances. If they can't be enforced, it's just a waste of your time, right? So the idea is we do get together and hopefully we can come up with what you're requesting.
Give us a red line and
You got
we
it.
can take a look at it. And I know we have FWC that has volunteered to be a part of this, because ultimately it was a model ordinance. It wasn't say, take this and do it.
That's what I wanted to ask.
It's say, here's a model, now tweak it that works for your city.
There you
And
go.
I think
And-
we're in that process, and I'm excited that
Yes.
we're in this.
And we can
process.
do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
good,
allowed to.
Good.
It's not a, hey, take this, fill in the blank and go.
Right.
You can do that, but.
This
you
is the
can
model
also-
code, amend as you see fit,
Yes,
and adopt,
yes.
and enforce, and have fun.
I think
Okay.
that's what-
Yeah, all right,
I think we should do as the next step is,
absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. Everyone good with that? Thank you. I echo, I knew he was staying and trying to get through this. Next, item F, sea turtle nest activity.
So as of this weekend, I counted 8 nests out there, 2 of them north of the Don Cesar up, and the majority of them from the Don Cesar south in Pasagrel. There's 8.
I walked the beach last night about 5 o'clock, and there's one in front of the Tradewind Serrata.
Oh, that's number 9.
And I think, I didn't see that the day before.
Yeah.
I think it just popped up night before last.
Okay, so that's number 9.
It was marked, so Turtle Joe was busy.
Is that the typical ratio or unusual?
No, I think we'd heard from Sea Turtle Tractors, Teresa, at our previous meeting, that obviously last year was very devastating, that it seems to be a biannual cycle of where this is a year they expect a lot more to be approaching our beaches. So this is supposed to be a good year, so.
Well, I meant the ratio of north versus south.
I think typically they have been more towards the south, historically, as I remember.
Yeah, and I think the turtles each turtle only comes every 2 to 3 years, so you're gonna have different
Right.
tranches or.
Right. And 8 weeks later, we should see the hatchlings, hopefully.
Yeah. It's not on here, is the birds and the nesting, we should probably talk about that. I know it's not on there. Are you guys okay for me to ask? Do you have any
So the
update?
skimmers, their area has been posted off already, and they've actually got a larger area and then a smaller area towards the south, just a little one there. So
Again, I've been out of town. I haven't.
in front of the Mariner, same place they were last year.
The Mariner next to the Bon Air?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's right.
That's the usual one, right, the Bon Air.
And FWC is out there daily. I've seen them patrolling or standing there. And of course, the Audubon Society posts a person there to
It's great.
keep people away, as well as educate.
They're great
Public.
volunteers. They'll come up and
Yeah.
some of them have their cameras and show you the pictures
And-
with the long lenses and all that.
Again, I'm playing catch up here, right? And I know, the fireworks are gonna go off before we meet again. What's the city doing for fireworks this year? And sea turtle, and not sea turtle, the skimmers.
Well, their fireworks are banned on the beach,
Okay.
so they do increase patrol around at that time, 4th of July. Send out messaging,
So there's
try
no
to communicate.
public fireworks on the beach, we're shooting them off down here at Corey, like we used to.
Not city-sponsored, but I believe. I think they might be doing it down
Yeah.
at Quarry again, yeah.
So you said Bon Air, what was the other location?
The other side.
Skimmers?
It's pretty much the same area, Bon Air, Mariner.
Okay.
It's just a larger group, and then there's a smaller one slightly to the south.
Okay.
What's the board's feeling about, the signs that say no dogs nesting skimmers for the weekend or whatever the 4th is.
No fireworks.
No fireworks
Couldn't agree more.
nesting skimmers.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No dogs, no fireworks, nesting skimmers.
You know, I just, you know, and let's like be zero tolerant.
I feel like you almost need to say baby birds. I mean, you really
Yeah.
almost have to
Yeah.
say there are babies out here.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not babies yet, but
I mean, there's no way to stop
yeah.
the public from shooting off their private fireworks. But we can do, I mean, maybe we put a call to action out for volunteers and cordon off. I don't know. It's,
I mean, no fireworks, baby birds is clearer than nesting skimmers. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
Nesting skimmers is
Skimmers
like
is
that.
Yeah, that's
skimmers
a
is something you
good
jump
idea.
on when you're riding on the beach. You jump on them. Those are skimmers.
Yeah.
So,
Ralph, is that something that can be enforced by a court, our ordinance of people?
Yeah, I think fireworks are illegal, even the private ones, so the sheriff's deputies and code enforcement could enforce that. And you could certainly have signs put up. I think we have a sign shop where we order signs. I'm not sure of the process of how Public Works does that.
I mean, you know, you
But
got
they do
the
have
fire
signs.
department personnel out there on the beach because of fireworks anyway. I mean, it'd be nice to have them also be looking for bird issues.
I was thinking just the electronic sign. It's at the bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a warning just for that weekend, because it's only for the weekend. you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
July 4th weekend, just if we could somehow influence the electronic sign to have a special warning about the
Yeah,
baby
I've
birds.
got that noted for the sheriff's department. They're the ones that manage that sign.
All right. Any public comment on this?
No.
We'll go to our edit, number G, which was Senate bills. You volunteered to give us.
So Senate Bill 180 did pass both the House and the Senate. Ultimately, there were some changes as it went back and forth. And so now it just awaits the governor's signature. We believe that the governor will likely sign it and not veto it. There's also a possibility that if he doesn't sign it, it'll go into law anyway without signature. Similar to Senate Bill 250 that happened after Ian, which he did sign. It has a couple different sections. Section 28 relates specifically to Hurricanes Debbie, Helene, and Milton, and any of the counties that are within the executive orders for those three hurricanes. When you put those two maps and overlay them, that's the entire state of Florida. So this will affect the entire state of Florida. And in this one, no local government, including a county or a city, can adopt a moratorium, propose more restrictive or burdensome amendments to its comprehensive plan or land development regulations, or propose or adopt more restrictive or burdensome procedures concerning review, approval, or issuance of a site plan, development permit, or development order, as those terms are defined in the statutes. And this preemption is retroactive to August 1st, 2024. So if an ordinance was adopted after those hurricanes on August 1st, between then and now, when the bill's not even a law yet, it would be void ab initio. So it wipes out any ordinances that were adopted post-hurricane. If anyone thinks that an ordinance was in violation of this section, they would have to give notice to the city, 14-day notice. It would give the city 14 days to respond, possibly repealing the ordinance or repealing a section of the ordinance. And if they go forward to court, whoever brings it to court, if they prevail, can obtain attorney's fees.
So it's incumbent on them.
And this expires in June 30th of 2028, but the moratorium and preemption would be until June of 2027. So we can't propose any ordinances until June of 2027 that would be more restrictive or burdensome with regard to those delineated things: comp plan amendments, land development codes, site plan permitting, for example. Then there's another section where they're creating a section in Florida statutes that would automatically kick in anytime there's a hurricane in the future. And it has the same restrictions, and it would be for 1 year from the hurricane. So in the future, if there's a hurricane, even after 2027, say in the summer of 2027, that would extend the deadline then to 2028 before we can propose and adopt any new ordinances. If we're somehow blessed with not having a hurricane in a particular season, or an executive order about a hurricane, then you could adopt more restrictive or burdensome procedures. But for now, we're limited to the ordinances in the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan that we have in the books. Now, we still can do other ordinances of the nature that Brandon was referring to, what I call behavioral ordinances. No alcohol on the beach, no dogs on the beach. We can refine those ordinances. They're not about land development regulation. And we're looking at each of the sections of the beach ordinance to see how they may or may not be impacted. And it looks like the lighting, if we're talking about the wavelengths of the light bulbs that are being replaced, isn't really land development, it's just maintaining your lights that are already there. That's probably okay. There are some other areas that we're going to have to look very closely at. In other legislation, it looks like the DEP beach renourishment program was funded for $50 million, but that's spread out among the state. And again, that's a cost share that the state does. But again, the full budget hasn't passed yet, and that's going to be the subject of this extended session. So that's, there was one bill that didn't pass. It said that the TDC could not use, or that we couldn't use TDC funding for beach renourishment anymore, but that failed. So that didn't pass.
Tourist development was TDC?
Yeah, the bed taxes, some portion of that was going to beach renourishment and funding a local share of beach renourishment. And there was a threat to that, but that did not pass. So we're so far okay on that.
Thank you.
Can I ask, you said the 1 year trigger, where the more restrictive, is that if anywhere the state of Florida is hit by a hurricane?
No, that one has a limitation as well. That one is, let's see here. That has a different definition. For 1 year after a hurricane makes landfall, an impacted local government may not propose or adopt. Okay. And then it says impacted local government means a county listed in a federal disaster declaration located entirely or partially within 100 miles of the track of the storm declared to be a hurricane.
100 miles.
While the storm was categorized as a hurricane or a municipality located with any such county. So this time it's the track, not just the landfall, but the track as it moves across the state from one side to the other, anywhere within 100 miles of that track.
Wow. Once it's declared a disaster, it's a bad guy, and then it's a 100-mile radius, the whole trek.
Of the track.
Okay. But the first one you said, the overlap map, was the state of Florida.
The first one's different.
Okay.
For Debbie and Helene and Milton, it's anything, any local government that was part of the governor's executive order, which is when you overlay the storms, it's everywhere in Florida.
Okay, that helps. Okay.
Thank you, that was helpful.
It's in a federal disaster declaration, not the governor's executive order, but the federal disaster declaration. But when you overload those maps, it's all of Florida.
I don't think there's any public comment for this one. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to the last. You were beach closure information. I think there was some algae and there was some...
Well, there was Interratri or whatever it's called. You know, people, they closed the beach from Indian Rocks to Clearwater. And it made me remember that we had encountered this once before, that we wanted to have something on the city website that let people know. I didn't know, for instance, whether we weren't named because we weren't tested or because we passed. And so I wanted a place to look, and I wasn't quite sure where to look.
So I think I brought this up last time when we discussed the health of the beaches, and I referred you all to the Pinellas County website where they do have the testing done, and they have a map that visibly shows the last date that the water was tested and the result. If the water was deemed to be unhealthy, it would be the health department or Pinellas County that would actually put a restriction on there, no swimming allowed, beach closed, things like that. So we had discussed the possibility of just providing the links to those websites from our page saying how healthy is our beach or something. That hasn't been done yet. But
That's what I was looking for. And then the other side of it was, and this is really disappointing, and this has nothing to do with us ourselves, but it could happen to us too. I had friends over, and they wouldn't go in the water all weekend because they said, oh, there's the stuff in the water. And then on Monday, I got my email. No, on Tuesday, I got my email. There was a patch article from Monday that said, oh, we have the results of the sample from Thursday at Indian Rocks that says the water is fine.
it's clear now.
So people all weekend didn't go to the beach, not knowing that the sample from Thursday showed that the water was fine. So my question is, how is it because it takes certainly it takes a long time for it to hit the press, but is it that the technique that they use at the lab takes 24 hours or 36 hours in the test tube till they know, or is it just slow before the word gets out? Like, do you know? I don't know.
I mean, I can't speak to their testing methods or how quickly the results can be obtained, but I do notice that when I have ever looked at the maps of the results, the last posted results is substantially delayed. It's like a week behind when I'm, actually looking. It hasn't been updated yet if they have retested. So it is a delayed output of the result.
I mean, I've been involved with the lake, and we've had that problem too, where it's a long delay, and it's just tragic when you're not swimming because of something that's been cured. And then the other thing that I found really odd about that one was at Indian Rocks was that there was an alert that someone else posted, and I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet, and I signed up to get the alerts now, but there was a sewer valve that broke off, and from May 12th to May 13th, they released 17,000 gallons worth of sewage at Indian Rocks. And none of the alerts mentioned that. So everybody's thinking, oh, there's something weird out in the Gulf that's affecting all the beaches. And instead they could have said, well, there was a valve that broke at Indian Rocks. Maybe that has something to do with the fact the Indian Rocks beach has a no swim advisory. And then, of course, also, there had just been all that heavy rain after a long dry spell, which everybody knows. If you have a flushing of you're cleaning the streets and you're cleaning nature. I mean, nature is not clean. Nature has animals that do things, and you wash all that stuff into the water. That's what happens when you have rainfall after a dry period. So none of that got communicated. Now everybody's sort of wondering, well, for the weekend, they're going, oh my God, we can't go in the water. And it carried forward to our beach. So I'm just trying to figure out, what we could do to not harm our beach unnecessarily when they have bad news, and just try to.
Right. Well, we were clearly not one of those 3 beaches that were closed. So I think your guests or whoever were visiting probably took it upon themselves to maybe to assume that it filtered all the way down to our end of the beach as well.
Yeah.
But
I think we should follow up on the links to the website. We talked about that before.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
We're never going to be able to, fear, uncertainty, and doubt of, hey, there's an article that there's something going on 10 miles away or 5 miles away. We can't solve that problem. We can have a resource saying, here's where the official place is for the information, go click on it, and consume that information to make your own decision.
The other piece would be if we somehow knew about those sewer breaks, because then we sort of like know why it happened, and that might help us sometimes to,
I mean, the education side on the Department of Health does tell you the reason why you see these huge algae blooms or whatever is in the water is usually due to some sort of release of discharge, whether it came from a broken sewer.
Yeah.
So I don't think they publicize that connection. You know, they just say the beach is closed or healthy or not healthy, and the beach is closed. They're not going to make the connection to, it was to this
yeah, then I thought maybe I was.
failure.
Yeah, that I shouldn't have mentioned it. I mean, I mentioned it as a person, not as a beach
Yeah.
steward, but I'm like, how come nobody's mentioning that?
But
you
that
know?
is explained on the page at the health department, that these blooms are due to a release of, you know, whatever matter in the water that causes the growth of these algae.
Okay. I added I, but we've already covered the beach ordinance, so I'm fine. And I think with that, we're through.
No, I had one other thing. I just wanted to mention that I misspoke earlier. When I read through the minutes, I just didn't realize that it was two separate meetings. I was fine with all the minutes, so if you want to go back and readdress it,
Yeah, let's,
that all the minutes were okay as far as I was concerned.
You get a motion for March 20th minutes
Yes, I make a motion that the March 20th minutes were
to approve?
to approve.
do you have a second?
I can second.
Second.
Roll call?
Member Looney, excuse me. Member Thompson,
Abstain.
Vice Chair Kurzman,
Well, you can't abstain. I'm sorry, I know you weren't here, but you can't abstain under the law. I don't want to get you in trouble. So if you take their word for it, the people that were here, you have to vote yes or no.
Yes. Thank you.
Vice Chair Kurzman,
Yes.
Chair Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do we need to go back? He abstained on the first
did the-
one.
yeah.
I-
Oh,
just
let's
go-
go
let's
back
go
and
back
have
and
you
do that
either approve or deny.
Can I have a motion to reapprove the minutes from the February meeting? I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 26th regular meeting.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kurzman,
Yes.
Member Looney,
Yes.
Chair Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And with that, we are
John,
adjourned.
good catch. Thank you.
Yep, good catch, thank you.
Thank you.